In making the case that Muslims and Christians worship separate gods, you end up seeming to have to make the heretical case that the God of the New Testament and the God of the Old Testament are separate gods, and that just won't do. A denial of the Trinity is, at least in a certain way, a denial of God. But here's the problem. Jews also don't believe in the Trinity. It's not just Jews today who don't believe in the Trinity. The Israelites in the Old Testament had never heard of the Trinity. Now, there might be individual exceptions to that. People like Abraham may have had some glimmer of the triune nature of God, but certainly the ordinary Israelite believer was not a Trinitarian. By that reasoning, you would seemingly have to say that Christians don't believe in the same God believed in by the faithful of Israel in the Old Testament. That's a huge problem because the New Testament is quite explicit that the God of the Old and the God of the New Testament are one and the same God. So I think this is a theologically dangerous error. So how do we avoid it? Well, by recognizing that people can be wrong about theology. You can say false things about the true God. You can even say false things about the nature of God. The philosopher Saul Kripke, in his book Naming and Necessity, gives us a helpful example. So imagine you meet somebody celebrating Columbus Day and you ask them, oh, who's Christopher Columbus? And they tell you, oh, he's the first man to realize that the earth was round. And he was the first European to land in the Western Hemisphere. These are the only two facts that this person can remember about Christopher Columbus. Now, you might know that both of those facts are actually false. The ancient Greeks realized that the world was round, and the Norse seem to have been the first to arrive from Europe into the Western Hemisphere. But does that mean that when this person you're talking to is talking about Columbus, that they really are talking about somebody else, an ancient Greek or a Norseman? It doesn't. They're talking about the same guy that you and I know as Christopher Columbus. They're just very wrong about all the details that they know or think they know about him. So it's not just that you two might disagree about whether Columbus was a hero or a villain on a kind of qualitative value level. The other person might literally be getting every fact wrong, and still they're talking about the same guy. Okay, but what about the fact that the Trinity is the essence of who God is? Well, bear in mind, we only know God's essence through his revelation. So think about it like this.
I've never seen an H2O molecule. I've never seen a water molecule. I just trust that the textbooks and the scientists and teachers that I've learned from are accurately describing that molecule with 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen.
So if you're sitting with your friend at the beach and you apparently having run out of things to talk about, say, wow, that water is H2O. And your friend says, yeah, I actually don't believe in all that H2O stuff. What follows from that? Well, you probably need to find better beach conversation. And your friend has some weird views about science, but it doesn't follow that the two of you are talking about different waters, or that one of you is talking about water and the other one is talking about something else. No, one of you is just wrong about the nature of water. For the same reason that Muslims and Jews are wrong about the nature of God. The essence, whether it's the H2O or the triune nature of God, isn't something immediately obvious, something visible to the eye. And so it requires taking it on some level of faith. In making the case that Muslims and Christians worship separate gods, you end up seeming to have to make the heretical case that the God of the New Testament and the God of the Old Testament are separate gods. And that just won't do.